Okay, welcome everyone to the Focused and Fulfilled Virtual Summit for Entrepreneurs. My name is Althea Walters. I am your host for today. And today, my guest presenter is Dr. Shannon Connery. So I'm going to say a few words about Dr. Connery, and then I'm going to hand over to her to just share her story, share, her program, and we're going to have a conversation today to talk about, happiness. We're going to be looking at happiness and fulfillment, and that's what we're going to do. So let me just go in, introduce Dr. Connery very briefly, and then hand over to her. So almost a decade ago, Dr. Shannon Connery's world fell apart. Like most of her clients, she was happy despite following every rule society had given her. She was skinny, she was educated, she was married with 2 children, she had a nice house and a condo in the mountains. She had an advanced degree, but she stayed home to raise her 2 children because of family needs. She checked every single box that the world had given to her, but one thing was missing. She was just not happy. Fast forward, Dr. Shannon Connery do believe, and her mandate is that happiness is possible. And she has been working with hundreds of clients across the world. And so now she has packaged that into her one-on-one coaching program, and she'll tell you a little bit about that. If you are someone who wants to feel better, she has designed this program for you. She believes happiness is possible. And today, Dr. Shannon and myself, we're going to be having a conversation about what it takes to be happy and fulfilled as an entrepreneur. So, Dr. Shannon, I'll be interchanging between Dr. Shannon and Dr. Connery. Each time I try to go between each, I stutter. So,
But you could just call me Shannon. That would be fine.
okay, not a problem. So, tell me a little bit more about your story. I touched on it, but tell me a little bit more about your story, and so that we can continue the conversation.
Yeah. So it was interesting. Like you said, I thought, I tried to live according to, I think, everybody else's rules for years. And we each have different rules we get based on our culture, our parents, our religion, our spirituality, whatever it is that your message is. But in the United States in particular, there are very confusing messages about what women in particular are supposed to do. We're supposed to sort of do everything. We're supposed to have a great career, but we're supposed to stay home with our kids. We're supposed to do the bulk of the unspoken, unpaid work with children and household tasks. We're supposed to set up all the social, we're just supposed to do things, and it's
Everything.
really unrealistic. We're also supposed to look a certain way and be a certain size and have certain things. And it's a very confusing culture. And so I ended up, got my degree in psychology, which I'm so happy that I did right out of school. And then I sort of got the message from, so many people, but, oh, you have children and you can afford to stay home. So you really need to stay home with your children. That's the
Oh,
noble
yeah.
task to do. Um, and I was also married to somebody who suffered with an addiction. And so there was so much happening in my life that I just felt like my life was running me.
Mm-hmm.
I had work I was doing part-time, even though I was passionate about it and wanted to do it more. I had secrets I had to keep because of this addiction that was happening in the household. I had, just all these dreams that I wasn't able to live by because of all the things I was supposed to do. And I noticed at a certain point that I was really unhappy that, I was at yet another lunch with some girlfriends talking about what diet people were going to go on because they'd put on a few pounds. And I just felt understimulated, underfulfilled, sort of like overwhelmed by life and yet under fulfilled by it, if that makes sense.
I totally
Um,
understand.
and so what happened in my own life was that there came a day when my ex-husband now um, basically told me that he had lost everything of ours, that
Wow.
we had these 2 houses. He was a surgeon in town, and he had basically started using opiates, which we all know now that the opiate epidemic is this just huge thing. But a decade ago, people were just starting to hear about it. And So he lost everything. He'd spend every dollar we had. He lost his license. It wasn't his first relapse, and so I was sort of done. And I just in a couple months, I went from one life that looked really good on the outside, but that I wasn't very happy in, to an entirely different life where all of a
Mhm,
sudden I had no money.
mhm.
I didn't have a house. I was renting a very like rundown, dilapidated place and working all the time to try to pay the bills for my two children. And yet one day I sat on the couch in my living room and I realized, oh my gosh, I'm really happy. Or at least I was starting to feel happier. And I really I was so struck by the fact that I didn't have time for lunches anymore. I worked all the time. I didn't have things anymore. I didn't have all the stuff. Um, and yet I was starting to feel happier. And so it really began this many multiple year journey where I dug into the research on happiness and empowerment and fulfillment and started to very intentionally get rid of the rules I'd been given by society about what create happiness and looking into what genuinely does. And I changed my entire life, from who who's in my community to the kind of work that I focus in on, even though I'm still a psychologist and a coach and do that kind of work. And
Right.
I changed my own goals for happiness. And so that's kind of my background and what happened to me that led me into the work I do now.
Oh, wow, that story. I can just imagine what you would have been going through in terms of your journey, and when you were on that couch. I don't know if you could have described the state. Was it peace? Was it, what was it?
That's exactly what it was. One of the things people don't realize when you live in a space that's not authentic, and I will just say that that can be with an addict, that can be in an unhappy marriage, that can be doing work you don't love doing, or
Mhm.
whatever it is. But it's stressful, and there isn't any sort of peace or contentment. And all of a sudden, without a life where I woke up in the morning and didn't even really have a plan other than, get the kids to school or monitoring an addict and hoping he wasn't using again.
Yeah.
I'd faced every fear I had. Like, I literally think of the things you're scared of. We're scared of losing our security, our financial security. We're scared of people knowing our secrets. We're scared of scandal. We're scared of losing friendships. All the things that we are fearful of, just kind of innately and culturally, I had to face. I faced every fear I had.
Yeah.
Every fear I had came true. I went from having money to no money. I went from people not knowing that I secretly was in a marriage with an addict. Everybody, it went on CNN. It was a national story.
Wow.
I mean, just every single thing, every scandal, every secret came out, and there's a peace in that. There's a gift in sort of all that hardship and trauma. And I mean, it was so hard at the time, but as the dust settled and I sat in my crappy rental house, with the leak in the ceiling and the backyard that was falling apart, I realized, like, right now I just have to decide what I want to do. I have
Yeah.
to make sure my kids have a roof over their house and food in their belly, and now I get to craft a life that's totally authentic. And
Yeah.
there was such freedom in doing that, that in some ways, I mean, I would never, it was a horrible time, but I would never go back to the life I had before, that so many people, I think, dream about having a
Yes.
house, another house in the mountains, married to a surgeon, two kids, private
Yeah.
schools, a nice car. It all looked very good. It was totally vacuous.
Yeah. Yes, and the more you speak, something came continue to come up, the word secret. So if it is that, how would you really describe a happy and fulfilled life? And I got from you just now that you really can't keep secrets with yourself
Yes, and
as
secrets, I
part
think,
of it.
Yeah, secrets are really, oh, they're corrosive. They take away from who we are if we can't live our truth. Well,
Right.
so what I started to do is I was living in that house, and to deal with all of my emotion, I started training for a marathon. And I noticed how empowering it was. I mean, not just like did it make me happy and give me a brain boost and energize me, but I thought like, okay, the exercise on research is wonderful. It's comprehensive, but people are missing what it really does.
Mm-hmm.
This ability to move our bodies in a way that bring us joy in whatever that is for you. It could be swimming, walking, jump roping. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do, but when you find what you love and you move your body, it has this very powerful physical, mental, and spiritual effects. And so I started studying movement. I started studying the literature on happiness. I started looking at what would create positive mental thinking. And so in
Mm-hmm.
the morning when I would lie in bed, I would think, what's one thing you can't wait to do today? Even though my
Right.
life was so busy at the time because I was scrambling, but I would make sure that instead of waking up with the worries, I would focus in on that one thing that was going to give me pleasure for the day, like a bubble bath after work or
Mm-hmm.
a walk with a girlfriend in the evening. And so slowly over time, I really developed this happiness and empowerment program. And I called it, I started calling it PACE, which is just an easy acronym, but it has the ability to help people not only assess their own life on 4 areas, but also then discover what areas need help and need work. And it's very simple. It just stands for pleasure. We are a species wired for pleasure, not just physical pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
which is very true. Like you think of massage or sex or movement, all those things bring us pleasure, but also things like our creativity, our hobbies, those things that we can't wait to do when we're not working.
Mm-hmm.
We're a culture in America, at least, that focuses on wealth to the exclusion of developing our own pleasure. So the P is for pleasure, A is for accomplishment, and that is having really meaningful, not just do you get a paycheck, that has nothing to do with it. There are amazing people I work with who don't get a paycheck and accomplish very significant
Yes.
things. And there are people that I've worked with who make millions of dollars and don't have a sense of accomplishment. So that's a complex area that I help people really find, what are you here to do?
Mm-hmm.
Then there's connection. Too many people have unfulfilling connection with negative people, energy vampires. And so I really started to realize the gift again in this scandal was that all the multitudes of friends I'd had disappeared. But after they left, guess who was left? It was the people who loved me for me.
Yes.
And so I really became intentional about not having friends of convenience, but having friends that energize me. Energy, I will say more than most things, is the thing that I'm studying right now
Mm-hmm.
because people talk about time as being their most limiting resource. I believe energy is.
I totally believe that as well.
Yes, because you can be productive at so many things, but once the energy's gone, it's gone.
It's gone.
And so the last area is exercise. And so pleasure, accomplishment, connection, and exercise are the 4 areas that I began to hone in on and really use to create optimal levels for me. And then I
Mm-hmm.
and then I took the program into my clients and now with my coaching clients. And I just actually this past few months created a course on Teachable called the Pace Academy, where I walk people through a 7-week course because it sounds simple, right? Like, oh, have friends, but people don't have quality friendships. It's an area that's hard. Loneliness is
It
off
is.
the charts. I mean, just that one area, I work with people for hours and hours on how do you do this. Um, so that's kind of it in a nutshell. That I really got away from the messages that having more makes us happy, that looking a certain way, that being a certain thinness, as a woman to disappear is better than to be big. And I
Right.
just threw it all out and I started from scratch. And I'll tell you, now 10 years later, I'm remarried, I have children, I have a nice house again. My life might look the same on the outside. It is totally different.
Yeah. Awesome. Um, I hear the story about living your truth. So most of us struggle with being unfulfilled, being unhappy. You talk about having all the material things in life and person still cannot be happy. What advice do you have for such persons?
Well, it's interesting because it's complex, right? There's something that happens when we get a new shiny toy, when we get that car or that designer bag, and
Right.
we do get a boost. But if you could try to differentiate the feeling of excitement and um, like like when a text comes in for you from a person you're attracted to, right? We get a boost. It's a little endorphin boost. It's excitement.
Mm-hmm.
That is not the same thing as fulfillment and genuine happiness and contentment. They're two different feelings. And what we so often confuse is that sense of, "Oh, I got the new thing," which honestly lasts less time than you can imagine. A lot of people who are struggle with shopping addiction,
Mm-hmm.
um, they get the boost from purchasing. They never even get to wearing the
Or
item of
using
clothing.
it. Yes,
Yes,
that's so
yes.
true. That's so true. Because when
So
I go
that
shopping, I just like to just look at it, try it on, okay, pack it, put it in my closet, and then boom, what next?
and please trust me, I am not trying to tell people that wanting nice things is in any way bad. It just has to be the icing. It's not it can't be the foundation of the house that is fulfillment and happiness.
Right.
It can't. When you absolutely give your happiness and your power away when you think that other people or other things have the power to affect your level of happiness. It's something I see every day where a
Mm-hmm.
woman or a man will come in and say, if my wife, if my husband just did X, Y, and Z, then I would be happier. And if
Mm-hmm.
you think about that at its core level, that means that someone else's behavior has the ability to either create or detract from your happiness. That is not empowerment. And so
Right.
that was sort of the other piece of PACE was really, and my program is really owning that your happiness and your fulfillment is your responsibility. And that
Mm-hmm.
whole victim mentality of, I used to live in it. Ugh, it's my husband's fault. It's his addiction. If he could be normal, I
Mm-hmm.
could have this happy family. And really, when it came down to it, with or without him, I was not doing the things I needed to do.
To do.
I tell people this all the time. I used to focus in on his golf. If he just didn't golf all the time, I would be happy because he was gone on the weekends. And so then I had the kids. And one morning it struck me, it wasn't until after we were divorced, like, why did I hate his golf so much? Why didn't I find my own golf? And that is the like that was part of giving up victim mentality and realizing I could have been creative. I could have taken turns with my friends watching kids and I could have created my own passion in
Right.
in pleasure. Like golf was his pleasure. Golf and actually tennis are two things that are full pace activities. They combine pleasure, accomplishment, connection, and exercise. And
Oh,
most people, if you look in on your life, you will find that those activities are the things that they're the moments in your life when you're the happiest. When
yeah.
you're doing all four things at once at high levels, it's really, those are the things that you, like your wedding or all those things that we look back and go, oh, that was such a great moment. It's usually because all four areas are coming at once together.
Okay, that's awesome. So I got the pleasure, the accomplishment, the connection, and the exercise in what you just shared, and how it's best for persons to own their power and own their pleasure as well.
Yes.
Because combined, you'll be able to create your own happiness. I really got that from what you just shared.
Yes, I absolutely agree that it's like the piece of it that is work is like you have to take these four areas and do the
Yeah,
work to find what you brings you joy, what things you want to participate in, what connections you want to pursue. If you don't have enough friends, who do you think is going to get you friends?
exactly.
If you don't have a job you love, who do you think is going to do the work to get you the degree or the next job or the real estate license or whatever you have to do? I mean, yes, it's incredibly hard if you have to pay your bills and you want to do something else, you just signed up for a couple years in 2 jobs.
Hmm.
That's horrible. Guess how you'll feel at the end of the day? So happy and proud of yourself that you are doing the hard work to reach your dream.
Yeah.
And so I do really think that that is a piece of it when we talk about fulfillment. Part of fulfillment comes from knowing that you're doing the work to live your dream.
Awesome. Awesome. So, Dr. Connery, what is the one habit that is non-negotiable for you, even on a daily basis, as you go through life? Business? That
So
one non-negotiable habit.
Yes, that is so easy for me, and that is movement. I mean, we call it exercise, but the research on exercise is that it helps every other area that I talk about. So if you, even if you're not a morning person, if you wake up and do your exercise in the
Mhm.
morning, you are more primed for connection with other people. And now that I've said this, watch, because as soon as the world is back to normal and we can go back to the exercise group classes and all that, people come into a class individually, they put their stuff on the shelf, they go to the class. Afterwards, they're much more primed to connect with other people. And so
Yes,
you'll see people meeting, oh, talking for a few minutes
that's
after
so
class.
true.
Our brains become primed to increase connection, increase creativity,
Hmm.
increase our energy and focus. So starting the day with movement sets us up for success in every other area, and it's an energy boost as long as you are not doing excessive training, which then can sometimes take away from your energy. But exercise is a total non-negotiable, and it creates success in every other area of life.
Okay, I can attest to that as well. I am not the avid person who goes to the gym, etc. But since I discovered movement, I'm going to start using your word now. Movement, that has really added a lot of value for my life, especially in 2020. I committed to doing it, and it's a real energy booster for me. Problems, whatever problems I had to be solved immediately, the creativity started coming, and so I can attest to that wholeheartedly.
I love that because it's so easy and it's free, right? You can put some
It
shoes
is
on and,
free.
and leave your front door, and you don't have to be around people. In COVID, it has been the one coping mechanism that I think has gotten millions of people through this pandemic.
That is true. That is true. So I wanted to find out from you if there's one thing that you wish you knew like 5 years, 10 years ago to help you on your entrepreneurial journey or where you are now, what would that have been?
So if I had known one thing, well, that's hard for somebody like me who could talk forever, but
You could give me two.
well, if I could go back and do things differently, I think it would have been much easier, sort of realizing that you have to know your why. You have to have clarity about your why, and in knowing your why, not just your what, not just I'm going to be a coach and I'm going to do this, but the why, that it's so empowering, and it can re-anchor you every time you falter or get tired, or you want to start to live by society's rules because you've seen 10,000 commercials and you think, once again, if I just had that extra vacation home, I would, you know, knowing your why,
Yes,
now I know why I do the work I do. And so
right.
that I wish I'd known before in my life. I just knew what I wanted to do, sort of, because I kind of liked psychology, but I didn't really have my why.
Yeah, I totally connect with that. I remember when I started my journey in the corporate world, I could only think of the things that I wanted to do. I wanted to do HR. I don't know why I wanted to do HR, right? I don't know if it was easy to be said or what. But then as I continued on my journey, I realized that I really love sharing knowledge with people. I really love helping people to achieve their goals, whatever it is, through whatever conversation, however we connect. And once I got back to that, I realized that is what I wanted to do.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And so often that's how somebody can find that accomplishment area is both through like what is your drive? What do you, and also like what are you curious about? If people could just
Yes.
follow their curiosity and then maybe get into reading. Another thing I tell people to do all the time is don't forget to do the information gathering stage, which is
Yes.
which is talk to people about who are actually in the jobs that you're thinking of doing. Don't just take a class in college and go, oh, that sounds good. I think I'll be a lawyer. Talk to a lawyer.
Good
um,
advice.
right. So, yeah, that I think is the one thing. And I love that you realize that you're passionate about teaching.
Yeah. Yes. So we're coming to the close of our interview, but I just wanted to ask of you, as we move into this new year filled with new possibilities, new realms we didn't even think about, or we haven't even started thinking about as yet. What advice do you have for persons as they venture out in their entrepreneurship world, how to stay focused and fulfilled? What advice would you give them?
So I would, one of the things that's really important to me and the work I do with my clients is helping them develop clarity. This is a huge tool if you want success, if you want to become an entrepreneur, is that, and I've talked about this before, and I write about this. There's a technique that a coach did with me a while ago called clarity cards. And so what you do is you start with a brain dump where you get index cards and you put down everything you do in a day
Yeah.
and everything you want to do for the next 12 months. And this could be housework, start a business, creative pursuits, family time. You put the piles then in low, medium, and high priority. And then you take the high priority ones or maybe some of the medium and you create a pyramid of 10 cards. And I'll tell you why this is important, because if you're an entrepreneur and you really want to be able to follow your dream and find the accomplishment that's perfect for you, you have to learn to have clarity about what you have time in your life and energy to do. When you create a pyramid of 10 cards, so maybe at the top is going to be your business, this entrepreneurship that you want to start. Um, you put in 10 other things and then, or 9 other cards, and then you say no to everything else. It gives you license to then when somebody comes up to you and says, hey, can you help with the bake to raise money for the thing, you can easily say, oh, I'm so sorry, I would love to help you, I don't have time right now because I'm starting a new
Yes.
company.
Right.
So by developing clarity, your entrepreneurship, your focus, your leadership, whatever you want to grow in, you can hone in on what you are here to do for the next 12 months. And I would really recommend people do that task because it gives you a focus. You play around with, okay, you can't have 6 things at the top of your pyramid. You can't. You will end up doing 20 things in a half-assed manner, as opposed to those 5 or 6 things that we all have the energy and the creativity and the drive to do. So that is what I would recommend people who are really want to start entrepreneurship in the new year. Take an hour to do this task.
Yes, the clarity cards. I think I'm going to check it out. Clarity is so important. It's so important, even if you're not an entrepreneur. It is so important in what you do every day. So I'm gonna try that. I love new knowledge as well, so I will try that. So Dr. Shannon, you were able to bring out a lot in our discussions today as we talk about the happy and fulfilled, how to be happy and fulfilled as an entrepreneur. You touched on many things. You shared your PACE program with me and with us. And for that, I can see how all 4 parts coming together can really lead to happiness. And I'm glad that you were able to venture on your own journey so that you can help to impact the lives of other persons who need your services. Movement, owning your power, having clarity, focusing on your pleasure, all of those things, really, really come back to helping you to be happy and fulfilled. And knowing your why will really, really help you. And I'm very, very grateful for your lessons today. They have been very good for me, and I trust that our audience will also benefit. I know that for your PACE program, you have a free gift to offer, and you can share that with me, and I will also pin it in the information for our clients to really touch base with you as well. So you can go ahead and share.
So if people just want to assess their own pace, they can go to my website and there's a free pace questionnaire and you can fill it out. I'm happy to give people free feedback about what areas they might want to focus in on. And also, just because I love that you're doing this work, for people who are interested and feel like this is the moment to dig into sort of that self-care and fulfillment, I am offering 50% off my PACE Academy course on Teachable. And so you can sign up and use the code PACE 2021, and you will get 50% off, which I think means the course will be like 195 or something for a
Wow.
7-week course that comes with questionnaires and lots of valuable information. It's I charge that for 1 hour of my time in my practice, so it's a really good value. And I just encourage everybody to really, what a tough year we've all had. Take care of yourself, value yourself enough, whether it's my course or anyone else's, to just dig into how to be more fulfilled.
Yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I enjoyed our interview. I enjoyed our little discussion, and I know that it will benefit our listeners. And thank you for joining me on the Focused and Fulfilled Entrepreneur Virtual Summit. Again, I am Althea Walters. We were in discussion with Dr. Shannon Connery. So thank you again, and we look forward to a happy and fulfilled 2021.
Well, this is a great start to it. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, great. Thank you.